Hey lovely sexy hobby people, welcome to today's video, which is going to be the flick through for Airfix Model World issue 173. We get a review of the new Airfix Stalwart kit with this issue, and I'm excited to have a look and see what it says. Hey lovely sexy hobby people, right, shall we have a dig into Airfix Model World issue 173. We have an exclusive build for the Alvin Stalwart that Airfix have produced in 135 scale. Picture of it there in the editorial comment. So we have a saber, we have a warrior in 135 scale, a conversion for a Spitfire Mark 9 trainer, Beware the Moose 172 scale Airfix Hawk 100 series kit, and we have a Comet, is that 36 pocket rocket, gas patches, new tool, 3D printed 172 ME163 Comet. Yeah, cool. So, get set for Model World Live 2025. That's going to be April 26th, 27th, 2025 at the NEC in Birmingham. Looks like Hasegawa have reintroduced a number of kits into their core range. We're looking at, for 172 scale, Harrier GR Mark III, F4 EJ Phantom 2, Blue Impulse T2, Jaguar GR Mark 1A, UH-60A Blackhawk, MiG-25 Foxbat, F-15D DJ Eagle, AH-64 Apache, HH-60D Nighthawk, Blue Angels FA-18A Hornet, SH-60J Seahawk, F-104 SG Starfighter, F-16 CJ Black 50 Fighting F-16 Falcon, that will be, P-51D Mustang, F-117A Nighthawk, AH-15 Cobra Chopper, AH-1S Cobra Chopper, AH-1S Cobra, F-15E Strike Eagle, F-14A Tomcat, B-25J Mitchell, Lancaster B Mark 1 Mark 3, Junkers JU-88A4, SU-33 Flanker D, Eurofighter Typhoon Single, F-35A Lightning II, A-10C Thunderbolt 2, Gurum F-6 F-3 Hellcat, Zero Fighter Type 52, and F4U-5M Corsair. 148 scale. Sorry, the last three on that list were 148 scale. And the 148 scale continues with a Spitfire Mark 9, a P-40E Warhawk, an AH-64A Apache, F-8J Crusader, AV-8B Night Attack Harrier, TF-104G Starfighter, J-35FJ Draken, so the Swedish Saabs getting a look in, F-14 Tomcat, and then a 1/16th Sopwith Camel F1 and a 132 scale F-86 F-40 Sabre. Vehicles in 1/20th is a Lotus 79 1978 Germany Grand Prix, a 1/12 Suzuki GT380B, 1/12 Suzuki GSX R750 GR71G, 124 scale Lamborghini Miura SV, 124 scale 1967 VW Type 2 delivery van, 172 scale Rosenbauer Panther 6x6 Crash T, and 135 Yanmar tractor, and then Sci-Fi 135 scale, a PKH 103 Nutcracker, I don't know what that is, And then you have a 172 scale YF21 Macross Plus, a 172 YF19 Batroid Macross Plus, and then some blurb about the Airfix Club Kit, which I must get this month. Lataki's all new 172 J22 Oreo. So this kind of got Russian lines on it. Cold War jets. Yugoslav Romanian Sukhoi or Soko J22 Oreo. Yeah, okay. New World War One aircraft engines from Gas Patch here. And Australis books at Blackbird models for the Curtiss 3, 4 and H-74-75-0 Hawk and the F-86-30 NA Sabre. Modelvitz Condor flies again. That's the AN-124 Ruslan, and that's in 172 scale. That's going to be an impressive kit in 172 scale. Helston Model Group. The Tank Museum issues a 135 scale Matilda A11 kit. So that's the Matilda 1, essentially. No. Yeah, Matilda. Yeah, no. Yeah, because the Matilda 2 is that one that you see a lot of kits for the Desert Rats. But that's a Tank Museum. It looks like it's going to be 3D printed. All new 148 scale Beaver from Dora Wings. And then display case. So readers models. That's a really cool Thunderbirds diorama there. Subscriptions. And then Beware of the Moose. Is it a hawk or is it a moose? And Massimo Santarosa provides the answer as he builds the latest release of Airfix's 2-seat trainer. So this is BAE Systems Hawk 100 series from Airfix. It's 172 scale, $17.99 from Airfix stockists. I like the green and brown throwback camouflage to sort of like the World War II Spitfires and Hurricanes. Early years. So this is an intermediate build. Going through everything. Airfix's ejection seats without the pilots were rather plain and lacked detail. The resin and PE seats were a significant improvement, even more so under a coat of paint. So it looks like they're adding in. Airfix supplied a good collection of plastic parts for the Hawk 100 box-in, along with well-printed decals. A few aftermarket items were added to the mix, enhancing the level of detail. So it looks like we've got at least resin seats here. I don't know what else. Pre-cut masks from Edward. So what do we use? So that's so Edward print masks. Pitot tubes from Master Model. Yeah, I can't see any other. Can't see any other info. It just says series interior kit from CMK or CMKkits.com. Hawk 100 series set interior set for Airfix. is what they use for that intermediate build. Now this is a nice build, the Warrior. I'd really like to get hold of Airfix's 148 scale kit again when they get around to re-releasing that. But I built the, was it Academy? Which was in the style of the first Gulf War Warrior kits. I want to say Academy Warrior. I know Accurate Armour did a resin one. Academy, I'm fairly certain it was Academy that did a plastic kit. But yeah, nice looking kit. This is an advanced build and has upgrades to it. Blah, 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 blah. So anyway, this is the British FV 510 Warrior, and it's Theatre Entry Standard H, or TESH, Theatre Entry Standard Herrick. Meng is the maker. It's 135 scale. It's six. I really do need glasses. £64.99, and that's from creativemodels.co.uk. And it looks good. You've got a selection of PE parts going down here, photo etch parts like grills, etc. Doesn't look. I can't see. I don't think it's got an interior, which is a shame. Talking about the add-on armour around the turret for the gunner and commander. So you've got the bar armour on this, which was designed to basically destroy RPG rounds before they had chance to impact on the hull. And it was basically bolted onto the add-on armour that was already on the Warrior. And the idea being that the slats would be spaced, and as a warhead came in, the slats would basically cut it open like you've seen these egg slicers where you pull the lever down and it's got several strands that slice the egg for you. Well, it would have that effect on the RPG, essentially breaking it up into parts, so it basically became inert and unable to go off. That was the idea behind it. This doesn't look too bad. I know on the 148 scale the slat armour was really chunky, and I think I saw a article where somebody had done a manufacturer had produced a 148 scale photo etch kit for that. But this comes with all the boxes and antennas for disrupting signals of like remotely operated or mobile phone operated IEDs, roadside bombs, that sort of thing, which is what the theatre entry standard was about. Then we have Gas Patch Models ME163 Comet, and this is in 172 scale. It's €36 from gaspatchmodels.com. Intermediate build. Looks like you get a really good set of decals here for it. And the parts all come in a box, and a lot of them are actually slotted into a foam case basically for protection during travel. But this is interesting. It looks like this is an example which has been being tested by the RAF. If I remember rightly, I think the Comet, the idea behind the Comet was that it would take off and literally power up to where the bombers were. And then it would dive down, attacking the bombers. At the bottom of its dive, it would belly out and use the momentum to bring it up again to attack underneath. And then obviously as it passed back through the bomber formation, it would then dive back down, attacking further bombers. I believe that's the way that this operated, if memory serves. But yeah, apparently it wasn't very much fun to fly either. Modelling excellence. This is Euroscale modeller. There's a tiny M3 Sherman here. It's a 1/700 scale M3A3 Sherman tank that is on a real bottle cap for this modelling display. And then there's a Trumpeter 1/72 scale LCAC landing craft air cushion. Here's your conversion build. And this is Revell's 1/32 scale Spitfire Mark 9C. It's 36 euros from Revell Stockist, but the conversion kit is Supermarine Spitfire T9 Brigade models, 1/32 scale, and it's £59.99, and you can get that from hanants.co.uk. It looks like you get the additional fuselage, it looks like you get wheels, the additional seat, bulkhead, and interior panelling, and you get what looks like a vacuum cockpit. Is that Czech? Are they Czech colours? I can't see. Unarmed trainer. Da da da. Dutch markings. With an overall coat of Mr. Colour Super Clear gloss applied and allowed to dry, Brigade's colourful Dutch markings were then added. So there you go, Dutch. Disco Fever. And this is Out and About Bolton Model Show. It's a nice 410 in 1/72 scale there. A 1/35 scale Centurion ARV, Armoured Recovery Vehicle Mark II. A Mark III LCM, Landing Craft Mechanised, and Sherman kit. This is the old classic, vintage classics Airfix kit. Really nice short Sunderland Mark V using Special Hobby 1/72 scale kit. That's a Sunderland is a kit I want to build because I was told that my grandfather flew Sunderlands during World War II, so at some point I do want to build one. I'm not keen on the Airfix Vintage Classic kit, but hopefully I can get hold of a special hobby one at some point, if it won't break the bank. And here we go, here's the Stolly, the Alvin Stalwart. The concept was that this was a high mobility load carrier that could be used to transport essential supplies over any terrain and swim with minimal preparation. Yeah. I used to see the odd one or two of these where I grew up in Lippock in Hampshire, because we were just down the road from Borden, which was a Royal Electrical Mechanical Engineers base, and it had SEME, which was the School of Electrical Mechanical Engineers there. So in the growing up as a kid in the 70s, occasionally saw these. Obviously, as they got phased out, we saw less and less. But yeah, we used to see all sorts, predominantly FV 432s, and then later Warriors. I can even remember seeing a Warrior that had been decked out for as somebody's just married wedding car, as it were, going down the road, going down the main road in Borden through to White Hill. But yeah, Alvin Stalwart. So the Airfix kit is 135 scale. It's $39.99 from airfix.com. Obviously, you get a 10% discount, I believe, if you're an Airfix Club member. This is something that I want to get so that I can put it side by side with my ferret that I have. I also have a Chieftain Mark V from Tamiya. So we're going for that sort of like early Cold War stuff, or mid Cold War stuff. But this looks like a really nice kit. It looks like it's being rendered really well. Apparently you get a choice of radios, so you can have the older Larkspur or the Klansman. Radio kits, which were introduced in the 70s and ran through to what, mid-90s, maybe a bit later. I can remember doing my regular radio users and then standard 2 signal carder on Klansman, and I hated it. I did not enjoy signals at all. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this and I can't see if the kit comes with the integral crane because it's not here. But it looks like for some of the mouldings, like for example the exhaust muffler shroud, they've gone with a clear cast piece for that. I'm sure at some point somebody will produce a PE version of that. But yeah, I mean, it looks good. The only thing I'd probably gripe about is that the wheels don't look weighted, which is a shame. So again, I'm sure somebody will do a set of wheels, resin wheels, that are weighted. The canvas tilt looks good on top, and this, the way that they've weathered it is actually quite nice, very subtle weathering. So they've just gone for a completely green look to this one, but obviously sometimes they would have had the black and green camouflage applied. And then there's this figure build, which is again something which is really nice and unusual. It's a 100mm RDG miniatures 7th African Regiment officer. And I'll just read you this first paragraph. The 7th Royal African Regiment served as part of the Neapolitan Army during the Napoleonic period, comprising black soldiers and officers, a rarity in Europe at the time. The regiment was originally a French army unit manned by indigenous recruits from the French West Indies. The officer depicted by Nilo Riviescio's impressive sculpt for RDG miniatures wears the period-correct officer's uniform with a rather non-standard gold earring and small embellishments on the boots and bearskin headpiece. But this looks like a really nice sculpt. If I was perhaps a little bit more confident in doing my flesh tones, I might be interested. But they give you a guide to doing the skin colour for this chap. Fantastic. And I can't do eyes. I'm really, really terrible at doing eyes. But when it comes together, you know, it's a really great looking miniature. We then have an in focus article on the F86A Sabre. And again, Sabre. Yeah, Sabre. Famous for battling MiGs over Korea. It's one of those kits that I did a couple of them actually as a kid, because they were one of the kits that seemed to be in my local newsagents quite a lot. That and the Saab Viggen. There's something about the Sabre that I like. Maybe paint one. Maybe buy one and paint one. But yeah, in focus. And then we have the 1/48 scale Sabre F86A from clearpropylmodels.com, and that's €55. Advanced build. It says here, some 3D parts went into making the kit's accurate and highly detailed cockpit, including PE straps on the seat, which could be left out until the end of the build. Additional 3D parts, by the look of it, for the gun bays. Inner and outer gun port parts would not fit properly. The 3D printed replacements, pink, were installed without the gun doors and fitted superbly. Adding in the weight for keeping the nose down. Steel shot was secured with slow setting superglue in and around the intake and cockpit tub for nose ballast. The intake assembly was then attached to the lower fuselage panel. So this looks like it's a really detailed kit compared to what the sort of kit I used to build as a kid from Airfix in the 172 scale. And again, that just bare metal airframe. Okay, on the shelf, books, we have the Convair B36 Peacemaker. You can get that from penandsword.co.uk, £32. Detail and Scale Volume 21, P51 Mustang Part 1, NA73X through P51A, the Allison engine variants. Bert Kinsey, Hagen, Klaus, Rock, Rossark. 1899, and that's detailandscale.com. Eurofighter EF2000 Typhoon, Francois, P. Francois, F. Felicio, and F. Benotti, and that is €24.50 from ibnedtor.it. World War II vehicles through the lens, TTL 5, Tom Cookie, or Cockle rather, and that's €28.95 from picobooks.com. Panzer Tracts number 3, Panzer Kampfwagen 3 off J, L, M and N. $23.99 from panzerrex.com. And then we have War Paint 146, Grurum A6 Intruder and EA6B Prowler, £19 from guidelinepublications.co.uk. Aircraft kits, we have the E2C Hawkeye, JSDF, is that the Japanese Self-Defense Force? Japanese Air Self-Defense Force. MP2000 propeller, 172 scale from Hasegawa, $54.99. We have a SIAI Marchetti SF260 AM M and W, 148 scale from Special Hobby, and that's €26.60. Douglas EC24A by X scale, that's 144 scale, $36.10 from ScaleModels.com, xscalemodels.com. Harrier T4, Kinetic, and that's by Kinetic, 148 scale, £32.83 from luckymodel.com. A7D Corsair 2 Vietnam Scheme, Hasegawa, 148 scale, £79.99 for that one. And then P39 Air Cobra Recon, Armour Hobby, 148 scale, €39.09. ArmourHobby.com. Carrying on with the aircraft, we have P51D5 Mustang, 357th Fighter Group, Kavozavody scale, 172, and that's €15.17. We have a Western Lynx Mark 88. Now I understand that that is the Airfix, not the Airfix, the Matchbox rebranding. Yeah, Matchbox's original 172 Westland Lynx has been re-released by Revell with German Navy markings. So that's a reasonable price. It's obviously it's Matchbox finishing, so you might want to either rescore some panel lines or, you know, just sort some out. But you can't complain too much at basically £16.99, 172 scale. We have the MQM-74A Shukar target drone, Special Hobby scale 148, that's €19.90. We have the Gustav PT3 BF109G 6AS and BF109G 14AF Edward. Edward 172 scale has €20.68. Is that a dual kit? Edward's third dual combo. So yeah, 2 kits by the look of it. The S61N UK MCA Coast Guard. So that's essentially a Sea King by the look of it in Coast Guard colours. which is interesting because it says UK MCA Coast Guard. And I have seen Coast Guard helicopters with this colour scheme, but it's essentially a Sea King by the look of it. Sikorsky S61N. It may be slightly different to a Sea King, but it looks very Sea King-like. I'm going to have to go and check that out now, because I'm fairly certain that the Sikorsky S6 was just a variant of the Westland Sea King. Anyway, aircraft models, 172 scale, and that's £65 from aircraftmodels.com. Key 21 LB Sally with Japanese pilots and ground crew, 148 scale from ICM, and that is £63.80 from Hanantz. Vehicles, we have, nice to see it in 172 scale. Armoury Models Group have produced a Dennis 3-ton British World War I 3-ton lorry. And that's €30.50. That's a fairly hefty price tag, I think, for a 172 scale kit. We have a British Stuart Mark I Honey, which is basically the British version of the M3 Stuart. In 135 scale, and that's $64.99. Creative Models, and it's by Mini Art. We have a Humber LRC Mark II. This is 148 scale from CMK, and that's €36.20. We have a Border Models 135 scale. STUH 42 Alf's G late production. So it looks like a Stug self-propelled tank hunter, self-propelled gun. That's what it looks like to me. STUH Alf's G. We have the M1139 Italian medium tank, IBG models in 172. Again, it's nice to see variations in armour from different countries in that 172 scale, which I think has been sadly lacking over the years. Certainly when I was a kid, you could get hold of Churchill tanks, you could get hold of Shermans, you could get hold of Panthers, Tigers, obviously Panzer IVs, some Panzer IIIs. Airfix did a Panzer II, used to be able to get hold of King Tigers. And they seem to be the ones that were most prevalent. Matchbox did a Priest, as well as obviously they did the Firefly. But the ones that seemed to be most prevalent were those main, like the tanks that everybody seems to know. And it was things like half tracks. Airfix did a half track for the M3, but I think only Matchbox did the half track, the Hanamag. And again, you know, it was just, if you wanted to, as a kid, if you wanted to build up an army for wargaming, you really had to scour the model shops to try and find examples of stuff, you know, and I'm talking sort of like the 70s and 80s that I grew up in. But it's nice to see that we're getting such a varied range now of armour, World War II armour. But yeah, so that's €16.50 from IBG.com. And then we have an L701 German 3-ton cargo truck. This is Mini Art 135 scale. It's £52.99 from Creative Models. Some aftermarket parts and other bits and pieces. So we've got some figures here. RAF Mechanic with accumulator trolley, 148 scale from CMK. These look 3D printed. Looks like Airfix are re-releasing their 176 scale, or HOOO as it used to be. World War II German infantry. Lovely sculpts, but they do depict, I think, infantry uniforms from the early part of the war. 135 scale mini art urban travellers, look like quite modern urban travellers. Leopard crew armed forces of Ukraine, 135 scale, and that's from ICM. Mini art German and Italian pilots with DAL soldiers, and that's 148 scale. German AFV crew, 135 scale there, mini art. Other vehicles, we have a Kenwood Kremer Porsche 962C 1987 WSPC. That's from Hasegawa, 124 scale, and that's £39.99. L1500S German tow truck mini art, 135 scale, that's £48.99. And then a Type 320 W142 Cabriolet B ICM 135 scale, it's £32.99. Ships, we have a 196 scale reappraisal, it says here, Darwin's Historical Discovery Bark HMS Beagle, and this is 196 scale from Revel. Following the review of Revel's HMS Beagle in February's issue, new information has come to light which has required a reappraisal of the kit. In short, the contents cannot be built into an accurate model of this famous ship. While comments regarding the mould quality, detail and use of vac form sails remain valid, the main structural components are identical to Revel's 1110 scale HMS Bounty, first released in 1956 and last issued in 2010. A physical comparison indicates that the deck lowered along most of its length to allow for a raised forecastle and poop deck and captain's cabin panel, plus fittings including the addition to Devitt mounted whalers and nameplate were altered to mimic Beagle's appearance. Items such as crew figures, ship's cannon and swivel guns were also removed, but the remainder is the same, from the styrene shrouds and tensioning lanyards to the bowsprits hoop style locating point for a spritsail spar present on Bounty but not Beagle. While both ships had remarkably similar dimensions, which may have led to Revel's designers to decide on tweaking the Bounty's mould 60 years ago to produce Beagle, their hull forms are markedly different. Bounty has initially a collier and had a rounded bow, while Beagle had a converted 10-gun Cherokee class brig sloop with a proper gun deck and had a sleeker appearance, none of which is reflected in the kit. Although Revel's Beagle may have been acceptable back in the 1960s, modern references, both hard copy and online, mean that it doesn't pass muster nowadays. So there you go. Type 192 and Type 192A harbour tugboats. These are 1/350th scale from Tacom Scale, and they're £23.99. And then it looks like you have a dual kit here. This maritime gift set is something of a nostalgia trip for modelers of a certain age, offering 2X Matchbox 1700 scale kits. The USS Fletcher and heavy cruiser USS Indianapolis. So Pacific Warriors, USS Fletcher and USS Indianapolis, 1700 scale, Revel, that's £27.99. A Matchbox reboxing. Decals, North African Mustang Mark III collection, that's 148 scale from Euro Decals. Eurofighter Typhoon 30+09, Bronze Tiger Tiger Meat 2014. Sci-Harp Decals 172 scale. F-18AB in Royal Australian Air Force, that is 1/144 scale, and that's from Mark 1. Then we have RAF Typhoon Squadron Special Air Graphic 172 scale, £19.50. There are many operational and test evaluation units in the RAF flying the Eurofighter Typhoon, and as such it's a popular modelling subject. If working in 172, you have the choice of kits by Hasegawa, Rebel, Airfix, Italeri and Hobby Boss. Although some of these need update work, want to build on a theme and represent all of the various RAF squadrons, then you surely won't want to miss Air Graphics' new RAF Typhoon Squadron Special. So there you go. M4, Sherman, D-Day and France 1944. Star decals, 148 scale. And then Stamp SV4, Alat, Arin and Saint Yan. And that's from FRROM, 172 scale. Designed to complement Azure From's limited run 172 scale Stamp Vertunion SV4 kits, which were first released in 2015. There you go. Right, what have we got? We have got Carly floats for 40 people. If you want additional or better scale quality Carly floats, you have these from Edward in 1/350th scale. A My24D internal additional fuel tank, 172 scale. Designed for any 172 scale Mi24D Hind kit, although it would also be suitable for Hind EF airframes. F104 centerline pylon. Austin K2 ambulance wheels. Now these are 148 scale, not for the Airfix 135 scale release. We have an F4E parachute, Edward 148 scale. I think this is the 3D printed example. Yeah, a single highly detailed 3D printed item. And then we have some fine brass chain with rounded links. Other bits and pieces. We have World War II United States Navy battleship bollards, Edward 1/350th scale. Jerry cans 20 litre German type. These are 1/24 scale. 7.5 centimetre KWK Stug shells, STUG shells with ammo boxes. 135 scale for mini art. P38H Lightning, so Yahoo models, 172 scale, designed to fit to me as most recent 148 scale. What? That's got to be a misprint then, so I'm assuming it's meant to be 148 scale. But it's a pre-painted photo etched instrument panel. And then we have an Ancient Warriors paint kit from ICM and some L39 ejection seats from Edward 1/72 scale for the L39 Albatross. And there you go. Right, I hope you enjoyed that, because I think all we've got left is a bit of advertising and then the show guide. Hope you enjoyed that, and hopefully you will join me for the next video. Alright, take care. Bye bye.